What if some of the most mysterious encounters in the Bible weren't just spiritual experiences, but something far more physical, far more real, and far more misunderstood? What if the beings described as angels, messengers, or visitors from the heavens were actually encounters with intelligence beyond our world? For centuries, these stories have been read as faith, as symbolism, as divine mystery. But what if they were observations or something people didn't yet have the language to explain? Because when you go back and you read carefully, certain patterns begins to appear. In the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, verse 15 to 18 reads, "Now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creatures, and as for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes around about them four, and their appearance and their walk was as if it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel." Now you can understand that this is not a simple image, but something layered, structured, moving in ways that defy normal understanding. In another moment, a presence appears, not in human form, but through fire, as in the book of Exodus chapter 3 verse 2. "And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire, out of the midst of a bush, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed." Now this is a phenomenon. There is a burning, but not destroying, communicating but not fully revealing itself. Then again, there are the ascensions, like in 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 11. "And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared the chariot of fire and horses of fire, and Elijah went up by whirlwind into heaven." Now this is a scenario. It's not drifting, not fading, but taken, lifted, as if by force. And in the New Testament of Acts chapter 1 verse 9, "And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and the cloud received him out of their sight." Now, to ancient observers, what words could they use? They didn't have spacecraft. They didn't have technology. They described what they saw using the closest language available, which were fire, cloud, glory. But what if those words were approximations, not fantasy, but interpretation? Now think about this. Today, if someone claimed to see a structured object in the sky, moving in impossible ways, emitting light, defying known physics, we would mostly call it a UFO, an unidentified flying object. But thousands of years ago, the same sight would be called divine. Not because it was fully understood, but because it was beyond comprehension. And that's where science quietly enters the conversation. Because modern physics tells us the universe is vast, almost unimaginably so. Billions of galaxies, each containing billions of stars and planets we're only just beginning to discover. Statistically, the idea that Earth is the only place where intelligence exists becomes harder to defend. Not impossible, but unlikely. And if intelligent life exists elsewhere, then the next question becomes uncomfortable. Have we ever been visited? Or more precisely, have we ever mistaken a visitation for something else? Ancient people didn't separate the physical form from the spiritual. Everything was one reality. So when they encountered something unknown, they didn't analyze it scientifically. They experienced it and then gave it meaning. A being from the sky becomes an angel. A powerful presence becomes divine. A structured object becomes a chariot of fire. Not because they were wrong, but because they were interpreting through the lens of their time. But here's where the tension goes. Because in modern times, we pride ourselves on logic, on evidence, on proof, and yet we also dismiss anything that doesn't fit within what we already understand. If someone today described a glowing being descending from the sky, many wouldn't investigate. They would dismiss it, label it imagination, illusion, or error, because belief has shifted. In the past, people believed too easily. Today, we doubt too quickly. And somewhere between belief and skepticism, the truth, whatever it may be, gets lost. But the most important question isn't whether these encounters were extraterrestrial or purely symbolic or something else entirely. The real question is this: are we interpreting the past accurately, or are we projecting our current understanding onto experiences that were far more complex than we realize? Because if we are a fraction of those ancient descriptions point to something real, something physical, something beyond Earth, then history isn't just a record of human events. It's a record of contacts, misunderstood, reinterpreted, and slowly forgotten. And maybe the reason people today struggle to believe isn't because the idea is impossible, but because accepting it would change how we see everything.